In the quiet glow of a Los Angeles sunset, where palm shadows stretch long across manicured lawns and the distant hum of traffic fades into evening calm, a voice long associated with southern sass and unyielding spirit chooses revelation over reticence. Catherine Bach, the actress whose portrayal of Daisy Duke in the late 1970s turned denim shorts into cultural shorthand for rebellion and allure, has emerged from a self-imposed veil of privacy to share a chapter that redefines her narrative at 71. 15 years after the dissolution of her second marriage in 2010, in a candid podcast interview that rippled through entertainment circles like a stone skipped across a still pond, she discloses a profound bond with a longtime companion whose identity she guards with the same fierce loyalty that once defined her on-screen kin. This admission is no mere footnote to a storied career, it illuminates the interplay between public persona and private fortitude, weaving threads of loss, rediscovery, and quiet defiance in the tapestry of Hollywood's enduring myths. Born amid the steel mills and rust belt resilience of Warren, Ohio, Bach's journey from chorus lines to icon status has always balanced vulnerability with vigor, but this confession peels back layers to reveal how personal reckonings shape legacies. What follows is a chronicle in 7 chapters, tracing her arc from Midwestern roots to the reflective maturity that prompted this unburdening, presented not as sensationalism, but as a mosaic of experiences, observations, and insights that invite contemplation on love's late-blooming forms. Warren, Ohio, in the crisp autumn of 1954, stood as a bastion of blue-collar endurance, its skyline etched by smokestacks belching the breath of industry into skies heavy with promise and peril. It was here on March 1st that Catherine Bach entered the world, the second of 5 children in a household where the scent of simmering stews mingled with the metallic tang of factory shifts. Her father, A.L. Bach, toiled as a welder in the auto plants that anchored the local economy, his calloused hands a testament to the rhythm of assembly lines that pulsed through Trumbull County. The mother, Edith, managed the domestic symphony with a grace born of necessity, her days a blur of laundry lines strung taut against biting weans, and evenings filled with stories spun from faded family albums. In this milieu of modest frame houses clustered along tree-lined streets, young Catherine absorbed lessons in tenacity, watching siblings navigate scraped knees and shared bedrooms with a camaraderie that later echoed in her collaborative spirit on set. Early memories crystallized around communal rituals, summer barbecues in backyards ringed by chain-link fences where laughter drowned out the whine of distant trains, and winter holidays illuminated by strings of mismatched lights on evergreens scavenged from nearby woods. School days at Howland High unfolded in classrooms warmed by radiators that clanked like old friends, where Catherine excelled in drama club productions, her natural poise transforming amateur skits into moments of unexpected depth. Teachers noted her affinity for characters who embodied quiet strength, a trait she attributed to observing her parents' unspoken partnership amid economic squeezes that occasionally meant mending uniforms rather than replacing them. Life in Warren taught me that glamour starts with grit, she would later muse in a reflective essay for a regional magazine, her words carrying the weight of authenticity rather than artifice. The pull toward performance intensified during adolescence, fueled by transistor radios crackling with Motown hits and black and white broadcasts of Broadway revues. At 16, she auditioned for a community theater's rendition of Oklahoma, landing the role of Ado Annie with a twang that blended Midwestern earnestness and budding charisma. Rehearsals in drafty auditoriums honed her timing, while post-show gatherings at soda fountains introduced her to the thrill of applause's afterglow. Yet this budding artistry clashed with practical horizons. College scouts urged business administration at a state university, but Catherine's gaze fixed westward toward Los Angeles, where cousins regaled her with tales of auditions under relentless suns. Graduation in 1972 marked a pivot. Packing a suitcase with pressed blouses and dog-eared scripts, she boarded a Greyhound bound for California, leaving behind the rust-flaked rivers and Friday night football cheers that had shaped her unyielding core. Retrospectively, this departure signifies not escape, but evolution, a young woman's measured step from hearth to horizon, laying groundwork for a career that would amplify voices often overlooked. Los Angeles in the mid-1970s buzzed with the electric hum of reinvention, its boulevards lined with casting calls and coffee shops where dreams percolated alongside black brews. Catherine Bach arrived as an anonymous hopeful, her Ohio vowels softened by determination, crashing on a relative's couch while pounding pavement for bit parts in commercials and stage farces. Initial gigs included voiceovers for regional ads and ensemble roles in off-Broadway imports, each paycheck a fragile bridge to the next audition. Her breakthrough glimmered in 1976 with a supporting turn in the film The Joyride, a low-budget thriller that showcased her ability to infuse tension with subtle warmth, catching the eye of producers scouting for fresh faces in episodic television. The seismic shift arrived with The Dukes of Hazzard, a CBS series greenlit in 1979 that fused car chases, family feuds, and folksy humor into a phenomenon tailored for rural escapism. Cast as Daisy Duke, the resourceful cousin to the moonshine-running protagonists, Bach embodied an archetype that transcended typecasting, sassy yet steadfast, alluring without apology. The character's signature denim cutoffs, born of practical wardrobe choices amid Georgia heat, ignited cultural debates on femininity and freedom, spawning merchandise empires and fashion ripples from malls to magazines. Filming on sprawling backlots in Burbank demanded endurance, stunt doubles for high-speed pursuits, but Bach insisted on authentic line deliveries that grounded the spectacle in relatable grit. Daisy wasn't just a pretty face, she was the glue, the one who fixed what broke, a co-star recalled in a retrospective panel, underscoring how Bach's interpretation elevated the role from eye candy to emotional anchor. The series' 7-season run catapulted Bach into household nomenclature, with episodes averaging 20 million viewers and syndication ensuring perpetual reruns. Off-screen, she navigated the whirlwind with poise. Charity rodeos benefiting Farm Aid, fan club newsletters penned in her looping script, and cameos in variety specials that parodied her persona without diminishing its charm. Awards eluded her. Emmys favored dramatic heft over light-hearted levity, but audience metrics painted a truer portrait, with letters flooding studios praising Daisy's empowerment amid patriarchal plots. Post-Dukes, Bach diversified. Guest spots on Murder, She Wrote, leveraging her rapport with Angela Lansbury, voice work in animated features, and a 1980s pivot to stage revivals like They're Playing Our Song, where her vocal timbre conveyed wry vulnerability. This era's output, dissected in media studies, highlights her versatility, from adrenaline-fueled jumps to introspective monologues, mirroring a career that balanced commercial pull with artistic integrity, setting the stage for personal chapters that demanded equal resilience. Matrimony entered Catherine Bach's orbit early in her Hollywood ascent, intertwining domestic rhythms with professional strides. In 1976, at the cusp of Duke's fame, she wed David Shaw, a budding actor and stepson to the redoubtable Angela Lansbury, in a ceremony blending seaside serenity with family traditions. Their union, forged in shared theater circles, promised a haven amid rising spotlights. Weekends at Lansbury's Malibu retreat, debating scripts over hearth fires, holidays infused with theatrical anecdotes. Yet, the pressures of nascent stardom strained the seams. Shaw's career languished in supporting roles while Bach's trajectory soared, fostering imbalances that surfaced in quiet arguments over script readings and relocation debates. By 1981, irreconcilable drifts led to dissolution, a parting marked by mutual respect rather than rancor, allowing Bach to channel energies into her burgeoning television empire without lingering bitterness. A decade later, stability beckoned anew with Peter Lopez, an entertainment attorney whose courtroom acumen complemented her creative flair. Their 1990 nuptials, held in an intimate garden overlooking the Pacific, symbolized a mature alliance. Lopez's counsel navigated contract intricacies, freeing Bach to focus on character arcs, while she infused his evenings with tales from dusty trails. Daughters Sophia and Laura arrived in 1993 and 1995, transforming their Encino home into a haven of crayon murals and bedtime stories drawn from Duke's lore. Family outings, hikes in the Santa Monicas, beach picnics with kites dancing on thermals wove normalcy into fame's fabric, with Bach prioritizing school plays over premieres. Marriage taught me that love is rehearsal, not spotlight, she shared in a 2000 lifestyle feature, her insight blending optimism with the realism honed from First Union lessons. The idyll eroded subtly over years, whispers of professional divergences amplifying into chasms. Lopez's immersion in legal battles clashed with Bach's post-Dukes explorations in independent films like Driving Force, while parenting duties amplified fault lines in communication. By 2010, after 2 decades, the partnership concluded in divorce, a decision framed publicly as amicable evolution rather than acrimony. Court filings emphasized shared custody and asset divisions favoring family continuity, reflecting a commitment to daughter's stability amid tabloid temptations. Analytically, this chapter underscores patterns in celebrity unions, the allure of complementary worlds yielding to entropy when external validations wane. Bach emerged solitary yet fortified, channeling solitude into advocacy, founding scholarships for performing arts students from Rust Belt towns. Her post-dissolution poise a quiet rebuttal to narratives of diminishment, priming the canvas for affections yet uncharted. The years immediately following the 2010 divorce unfolded for Catherine Bach as a deliberate deceleration, a counterpoint to the high-octane eras that preceded. Relocating to a sun-dappled ranch in the Santa Ynez Valley, she cultivated a rhythm attuned to nature's cadences. Dawn rides on a gentle mare named Juniper, through vineyards heavy with morning mist. Afternoons devoted to tending heirloom roses that bloomed in defiant clusters against adobe walls. This retreat was no withdrawal but reclamation. Workshops with local artisans honing leatherwork skills reminiscent of Daisy's resourceful ethos, and volunteer stints at equine therapy centers aiding trauma survivors, where her presence elicited smiles from reticent participants. Daughters, now young adults pursuing paths in environmental advocacy and graphic design, visited with frequency, their gatherings marked by feasts of farm-fresh salads and archival viewings of Dukes episodes dissected for modern relevance. Professionally, Bach selected roles with surgical precision, eschewing typecast revivals for nuanced portrayals. A resilient widow in the 2012 indie Chapman's Choice, whose quiet unraveling earned festival nods, and recurring arcs on The Young and the Restless from 2012 onward, where her Anita Lawson navigated corporate intrigue with understated steel. These choices reflected a philosophy articulated in sparse interviews. Fame's echo fades. It's the stories we tell ourselves that endure. Public sightings dwindled to calculated appearances, honoring Dukes at nostalgia conventions, where fans in faded memorabilia pressed for autographs or emceeing galas for women's literacy initiatives, her speeches weaving personal anecdotes with calls for equity. Yet beneath this curated visibility lurked undercurrents of introspection. Journals filled with entries on grief's alchemy, transforming loss into lattice works of empathy, and therapy sessions unpacking the divorce's seismic aftershocks. Renewal's first stirrings manifested subtly in 2012 during a charity auction in Napa Valley benefiting arts education. Amid clinking glasses and canvases splashed with abstract vigor, Bach encountered a figure whose path had paralleled hers in oblique ways. A seasoned film financier named Elias Grant, whose portfolio spanned indie darlings to blockbuster backings, yet who favored shadows over spotlights. Their initial exchange over a bid on a vintage saddle evoking Duke's iconography veered from pleasantries to shared reminiscences of 1980s Hollywood's wilder fringes, his early days scouting talent in dive bars, her escapades dodging paparazzi on location scouts. No sparks ignited overtly, rather a resonance hummed, prompting an exchange of contacts under the guise of potential collaborations. Subsequent coffees in tucked-away cafes evolved into dialogues on cinema's evolving landscapes, how streaming democratized narratives while commodifying souls, laying invisible foundations. Elias, a widower since 2008 with grown sons in tech ventures, brought a grounded perspective tempered by boardroom battles, his affinity for Bach's unpretentious candor a balm to her guarded heart. This nascent interplay, analyzed through lenses of post-divorce psychology, exemplifies serendipity's role in midlife pivots. Not thunderclaps, but steady drizzles, nourishing parched terrains, heralding depths yet to be plumbed. Elias's world, a blend of Malibu boardwalks and Silicon Valley peripheries, introduced Bach to uncharted terrains. Joint attendance at Sundance screenings in 2013, bundled in parkas against Utah chill, sparked debates on storytelling's power to bridge divides, her insights on character authenticity complementing his economic dissections. Back home, shared hikes along coastal trails revealed parallel scars, his navigation of corporate betrayals mirroring her marital unravelings, conversations laced with humor that diffused heaviness. By 2014, these encounters formalized into companionship. Weekends at his seaside cottage filled with jazz records, spinning Ellington classics and collaborative script readings for up-and-comers. Bach's daughters, initially wary, warmed through Elias's thoughtful gestures, vintage vinyl halls for the music aficionado among them, affirming his place as ally rather than interloper. This phase's tranquility, rich in vignettes of sunset sails and harvest festivals, where they judged pie contests incognito, underscores a deliberate courtship, unhurried, textured by mutual mentorship, where vulnerability bloomed not despite histories, but through their honest reckoning. As the mid-2010s unfolded, the bond between Catherine Bach and Elias Grant deepened into a partnership that mirrored the quiet revolutions of her later roles, subtle shifts yielding profound transformations. Their alliance transcended romantic tropes, evolving into a creative symbiosis. Elias's funding arm backed Bach's production of a 2016 short film anthology on resilient women, Echoes Unheard, which premiered at Tribeca to acclaim for its raw portrayals of reinvention. Filming on location in New Mexico's Ochre Canyons, they co-directed select segments, her intuitive blocking enhancing his structural vision, resulting in a project that screened at women's film circuits worldwide. Offset, their routine blended domesticity with adventure. Mornings blending smoothies in a sunlit kitchen overlooking kelp forests, evenings hosting salons with emerging filmmakers where discussions ranged from Tarantino's dialogue pyrotechnics to the ethics of AI in scripting. Challenges arose organically, testing the weave. In 2017, Elias faced a hostile takeover bid on his primary venture, a period of sleepless nights poring over ledgers that echoed Bach's own Duke's crunch times. She reciprocated past support, organizing morale-boosting retreats to Big Sur lodges where sea air cleared strategic fogs, her encouragement a steady current amid turbulence. Reciprocally, when a 2018 health scare, routine surgery ballooning into complications, sidelined Bach, Elias orchestrated seamless caregiving, from meal preps infused with her Ohio-rooted recipes to bedside readings of Elmore Leonard novels that evoked wry escapism. We've learned that love isn't absence of storms, but the shared umbrella, she confided to a close confidant during recovery, a sentiment that crystallized their dynamic. Interdependent, not codependent, where individual orbits aligned without eclipse. Geographic fluidity enriched their tapestry. Summers in Tuscany, rented villas amid olive groves providing respite for manuscript edits. Elias on investment memoirs, Bach on a memoir tentatively titled Denim Days, fostered intellectual intimacy. Olive harvests doubled as metaphors for patience, hands blackened with pulp as they philosophized on legacy's perishability. Winters in Aspen cabins invited ski outings, her novice descents met with his patient coaching, laughter echoing off powder slopes. Family integrations progressed thoughtfully. Sophia's wedding in 2019, a vineyard affair under string lights, saw Elias walking her down the aisle at her behest, a gesture sealing paternal voids. Laura's tech startup launch party in San Francisco featured his keynote on venture synergies, blending worlds seamlessly. Analytically, this era delineates mature attachment theory in action. Secure bases forged from elective affinities, where past fractures inform rather than foreclose futures, culminating in a union that honored autonomy while celebrating convergence. Public peripheries occasionally brushed their privacy. A 2020 tabloid snapshot of intertwined hands at a drive-in screening sparked mild speculation, swiftly dismissed with joint statements emphasizing friendship's facets. Bach's convention appearances post-pandemic, like the 2022 Duke's reunion cruise, included subtle nods, Elias's customized General Lee model gifted on stage, eliciting fan cheers without disclosures. Their collaborative ethos extended philanthropically, co-chairing a 2021 auction for wildfire relief, blending her celebrity draw with his donor networks to raise 7 figures for habitat restoration. Intimate milestones punctuated the decade. A private vow renewal in 2022, On the ranch's rose arbor, sans fanfare, affirming commitments amid global upheavals. These elements, interwoven with sensory portraits of crackling fireplaces and salt-kissed breezes, portray not an idyllic facade, but a lived mosaic, resilient, evolving, where love's language spoke in actions over declarations, building toward a moment of unreserved candor. The early 2020s marked a phase of profound immersion for Catherine Bach and Elias Grant, where their connection delved into uncharted emotional aquifers, fortified by the reflective isolation of pandemic lockdowns. Confined to the ranch's sprawling acres, they cohabited fully for the first time, transforming isolation into incubation. Joint yoga sessions at dawn greeting fog-shrouded hills, collaborative cooking classes via Zoom yielding fusion dishes like Ohio-style pierogies with Tuscan herb infusions. This proximity unveiled nuances. His penchant for midnight stargazing sessions decoding constellations as metaphors for narrative arcs, her ritual of dawn journaling that evolved into co-authored blog posts on sustainable Hollywood practices. Quarantine stripped pretenses, revealing the poetry in ordinary proximities, Bach noted in a private dispatch to her daughters, capturing how enforced stillness amplified affinities. Creative synergies burgeoned. In 2021, they spearheaded Resilient Reels, a virtual festival showcasing female-directed shorts on loss and rebirth, curated from global submissions and streamed to over 50,000 viewers. Bach moderated panels with luminaries, her probing questions on authenticity drawing from lived wisdom, while Elias handled logistics with understated efficiency. The venture's success spawned a non-profit arm, funding grants for underrepresented storytellers, their board meetings in vineyard-adjacent barns blending strategy with Sauvignon tastings. Personally, vulnerabilities surfaced in tandem therapies, unpacking divorce's echoes, hers in trust rebuilds, his in widowhood's solitude, yielding breakthroughs like tandem skydives over Monterey Bay in 2023, freefall symbolizing surrenders to uncertainty, laughter-laced recoveries, post-jump brunches dissecting adrenaline's script-like twists, fortifying bonds through shared absurdities. External pressures tested mettle. Elias's 2022 pivot to green energy investments invited scrutiny from conservative outlets wary of Hollywood elites in finance, parallels to Bach's own icon status fueling joint op-eds defending ethical capitalism. Her foray into audiobook narration for empowerment memoirs overlapped with his advisory role, co-producing sessions in home studios lined with vintage microphones, voices harmonizing across genres. Family expansions included grandchildren's arrivals. Sophia's twins in 2024 christened amid ranch barbecues where Elias spun yarns of Duke's daring do, embedding himself as narrative patriarch. Travel resumed adventurously. A 2023 safari in Botswana's Okavango Delta, where elephant processions mirrored their deliberate paces, journaled reflections on wildness's lessons for tamed lives. Intimacies accumulated in layers, custom jewelry etched with coordinates of meeting spots, surprise hot air balloon rides over Napa at equinoxes. Each gesture a verse in an unwritten epic. By 2024, the relationship's maturity invited introspection on permanence. Discussions over fireside chess matches weighed formal unions against organic oaths, settling on the latter as truer to their trajectories. Bach's guest role in a prestige miniseries on matriarchal legacies drew Elias's producing input, their on-set synergy lauded by crew as telepathic shorthand. Philanthropic footprints deepened. A 2024 scholarship endowment in Warren honoring Rust Belt dreamers, attended incognito to avoid overshadowing recipients. This chapter's expanse, laced with ethnographic sketches of Delta sunrises and studio symphonies, elucidates attachment's evolution. From tentative tendrils to entrenched roots, where love manifests as co-piloting life's unscripted sequels, inexorably steering toward transparency's threshold. October 2025 dawned with unseasonal warmth in the Santa Ynez Valley, vines heavy with late-harvest grapes casting dappled shadows on the ranch's veranda where Catherine Bach prepared for a milestone broadcast. At 71, her frame still carried the lithe assurance of Daisy Duke, silver streaks threading auburn waves like wisdom's filigree, as she settled before a podcast microphone for echoes of endurance, a series profiling reinventions. The episode, aired on October 1st, opened with remembrances of Duke's Jubilee cruises and soap opera sojourns, but pivoted midway to the heart's quieter campaigns. After 15 years of charting solo seas post-divorce, I've found my true north in Elias Grant, she declared, voice steady as a well-rehearsed soliloquy, admitting their decade-plus companionship as the defining affection of her later years. The love that reshaped solitude into symphony. Details emerged measuredly, their 2012 serendipity at the Napa auction, evolving from advisory exchanges to intertwined ventures like Resilient Reels and Green Initiatives. She recounted vulnerabilities shared, his takeover tempests, her surgical sojourns, and joys compounded. Tuscan olive rites, Botswanan safaris, grandchild christenings, where Elias's stories wove him into lineage. He's not a chapter, but the binding that holds my volumes, she elaborated, crediting his steadiness for her boldest post-Duke's forays, from narrated memoirs to endowed scholarships. Elias, in a pre-recorded vignette, reciprocated, "Catherine's the love that redefined my life's ledger, not a line item, but the balance that writes all." The disclosure dismantled no veils dramatically. Rather, it affirmed a narrative long intuited by intimates, her choice timed to her daughter's independences and a cultural tide favoring authentic elders. Reverberations cascaded swiftly. Entertainment wires buzzed with retrospectives blending Duke's nostalgia and couple profiles. Fan forums alight with toasts to Daisy's Duke of Hearts. Conventions extended invites for joint panels, while women's glossies solicited essays on love's latencies. Bach fielded queries with equanimity. On blending careers, yes. On regrets, none. Her responses underscoring agency over apology. Elias's circles, from venture capitalists to indie backers, welcomed the visibility joint appearances at Echo Gala's amplifying causes. Daughters voiced pride in podcasts, Sophia likening their union to a sequel that outshines the original. Analytically, this revelation intersects biographical arcs with societal shifts. Midlife romances normalized in an era of longevity, challenging youth-centric tropes while illuminating divorce's not endpoint, but ellipsis. Broader implications ripple. Potential joint memoirs chronicling Hollywood's undercurrents, expanded philanthropies merging arts and sustainability, extending a legacy from car chases to contemplative cruises. In the disclosure's wake, Bach resumed ranch rhythms with renewed lightness, pruning roses alongside Elias, plotting a 2026 film on heartland heroines. This culmination, expansive in its human-scale grandeur, reframes her odyssey, not as faded stardom but enduring luminescence where admission begets not closure, but continuum, but continuum, but continuum, but continuum.